It's the debrief.
Right, yeah. My history with tabletop games goes far back, thanks to my lovely, lovely father, who DM'd for my brother and I growing up. Got to play it was a lot of D&D back then. That's what my dad knew. And then as I got older, we'd played other board games that were like almost felt like TTRPG light. And now I just have played so many different systems, and I love learning new systems. Like, I love everything. Like this, what was so nice about this is like the traits, like come all of a sudden not using numbers to like be looking at, like that. It was just such a different change. Like, I love how much range tabletop RPGs have now, and just it's in my blood now. I've been playing TTRPGs more than I have not in my life, right?
Wow, yeah.
Right, yeah. Forever.
Very cool.
Yeah, my history is very similar. Like playing when I was very young, but it was with a family friend from school, and their neighbor was DMing us, and it was amazing. It was great fun. It was really,
You had
really
friends?
relaxed. Yeah, I had friends.
God,
I know
lucky.
it's insane. I mean, my only friends. But like,
I
yeah,
tried to
that was
rope them
great.
in, but
I know, but the thing is that I didn't play for years. Like afterwards, I didn't really have a team of people, or not really. It just wasn't in my periphery or my sort of radar in a way. Always wanted to play, but never really kind of chased it. And it was only until recently where I started not only going back into D&D, but also other different types of systems. And I think that's the thing that I really love about it, is how accessible it is. It doesn't feel like you have to be so knowledgeable in D&D now, or like any tabletop game to play. Like this, I'll be honest, I had no idea what we were rolling into today. I had no idea. I was learning the rules as we go along, and I know the rule book was sent ahead of time, but I just didn't read it because
You're busy.
I'm busy, right? But what's so great is, and especially again, it's testament to a system, is like the fact that you can come with no knowledge and be able to pick it up and still have fun and enjoy it and feel like you can test the boundaries. Having that space is just a real strength to the design of it all. So that's sort of my history and my enjoyment of it. It's the enjoyment of being in the unknown, but learning and kind of picking it up and learning as you go along. I guess it's like any game, really.
Do you remember your character's name when you were a kid?
Oh man, I think it was like Vex or something.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
VX, the two coolest
like,
letters.
you know what I mean? Like, it had something like that in it. Like, and I think it was inspired by, I don't know, there was this old PlayStation 2 game of this like dark animal called Vex, and I was like,
Are you combining Gex the Gecko and Kane, or like?
no, there was a character called Vex, man.
Yeah.
Like, mind you, most of my characters were designed around Kane and
Oh yeah, and
maybe
like
sometimes a bit like the whole Alucard sort of like kind of vibe, right? But
man.
no, man, like that was I think all my characters are called Vex. They're different now. Most of my characters, they're always a Valkos or something. But this is the first time I played with Cliff, so it was great.
Yeah. Josephine, you played a rogue. You must have had an edgy name, right?
I was like 6, right?
Yeah.
We were using the pre-gen characters
Yeah,
that was in the
Huh.
box. It was Lidda the Rogue.
Lidda?
Lidda, Lidda, halfling rogue.
Okay.
Yep. Died to a displacer beast.
May she rest.
Yeah, still upsets me to this day.
So I unfortunately didn't have like a kind of young experience like playing role-playing games. It happened like later on in my life, but I always I grew up knowing I was like, that's entirely what I'm about. I would love that if I ever got the chance to do it. But I always say it's like, yeah, at that point it was like, okay, I know I'm nerdy, but like, am I that level of nerdy? And and the answer was yes, resoundingly. But when I got into university, which was like 2012 this time, oh god, I saw on I saw on Facebook at the time, which I don't use anymore, it's all very old, that somebody was looking for somebody to join the them playing 5e for the first time, like D&D 5e, and I was like, okay, I'm going to say yes to things, and I'm going to go hang out with people even though I'm socially anxious. Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun because like that's the thing. Did you cry?
Was it? I mean, like just knowing what nerds are like.
Oh yeah, not for real.
Were they
No.
bad? But they were okay.
No, they were great. I knew them from university. It wasn't just like random people.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I survived. It was all.
Oh yeah, that is good.
Yeah. And like it just, I think because my like kind of happy place is like performing and kind of being in somebody else's like shoes for a little bit. Like it helped me get to know those people by playing a game with them and like just having a laugh. And yeah, since then I've been like smitten with all RPGs, and now I talk about them all the time and play them all the time, and it's worked out very well. Yeah.
I was the kind of nerd as a kid who was into books and I was into games, and then I remember when I was like maybe 12 going to my friendly local game shop and being like, wait, you're telling me there are books that are also games? It's like a world that I can do, and it's my imagination. But unlike you two, I didn't have anyone to show me what these games were, so I bought, I think, like Advanced D&D 2nd edition, got home, read it, didn't understand it, ran it anyway. Did I run it well? No. Did my friends enjoy themselves? Kinda. And then it's I think maybe one of the reasons I talk about RPGs for a living now is because I just have a really vivid memory of how hard it is and how much it sucked, but also how much I wanted to get into that world because it was such a magical hobby. And now people have to play with me because it's a career. And so who's laughing now?
Exactly.
We all are.
Crazy.
We're having fun together.
Hey,
Now it's grown so much, right? Like I've recently moved here, and yes, I get to do this with you all professionally, but also this week I signed up and went and played a game with a bunch of strangers.
Yeah.
Did you?
Played D&D
Wow.
at a pub.
Nice.
Random people I'd never met before.
How was that?
Fun.
It was great. It was great, and the whole room was packed. There were like 8 tables
Ooh.
going, and it's just like it's so cool, just in the little neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, we were just saying, like at the beginning, like it's actually the same friends I played D&D with introduced me to Discworld, and it was again like I grew up really, like my mom and dad like wanted me to read books, but they didn't necessarily recommend books. They would like throw books at me, and it would be it'd be arranged from like, here's like a Disney book to like an encyclopedia. Like it was like the book.
They
of
just
knowledge.
wanted you reading.
They just wanted me to
Throwing
read
things at the wall and
so
seeing what sticks.
exactly. Whereas my mate, he introduced me to these these fantasy worlds, or these other worlds, and one of them was Discworld, and it was incredible. It really kind of it hit me in a different way. It really kind of it's such a crazy world. I remember when kind of reading it for the first time and kind of taking them in, because there's a series of them. It's such a wild world. You can't place it, but you just want more. And I thought that was what was really cool about it.
It feels very real.
Yeah.
Like Terry Pratchett had a vision of what this world was, and you're sort of visiting his imagination. It definitely has stuff in common with role playing.
Oh, yeah.
Just like someone having a hallucination and then bringing you along for the for the ride.
Yeah, that checks out based off like all the things that have come up. Seems like things that you would just throw at a wall like in an RPG game, like randomly, and be like, yes, no, that's a thing. We have gargoyles on the watch that work with us every day. Like,
Genius.
I think it's like what stands out is like the how iconic things are from this world that you wouldn't even think of. Like when I was like reading the Quickstarter, and I was like, oh, this is the place that's on the turtle's back, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yeah. There it is.
I had heard of Terry, like I knew Terry Pratchett's name basically, and that was about it. And then I did some research, and as I was reading it, like even just reading the Quick Start guide, it was so fun because it just has so much cheekiness to it in the writing, and just like I was mentioning, it's like a section on friends, like, well, we can't help you there, but you need to find, like get people together to play, and like
very tongue in cheek.
I'm like, oh, okay, yes, and just encouraging the puns, and it made me think of like make-believe worlds that you have when you're a kid, and that you're allowed to just put things together that other people might say is not as reasonable, but that is fun, and that like transports you somewhere else.
I think that was the thing that really stuck out for me. It was it's how much fun there is in Discworld.
Yeah.
There are so many kind of fantasy worlds out there that not necessarily take themselves too seriously, but there is a serious level of it, and there's like all sorts of themes and elements that are kind of there, and you're like, oh yeah, that's about slavery and like that kind of stuff. Whereas Discworld, it does have those themes to a degree, but ultimately it's about fun and it's about enjoyment and it's about the madness of it all. And I really dig that. You don't get much of that,
There's it's kind of two things, because on the surface it does have this like total absurd ridiculousness that we so explored today that was a lot of fun, but also it has what Terry Pratchett so often brings, especially in the books, is taking ridiculous things in real life and then thinking about them and making you realize they are ridiculous. So much of, I was reading Guards to prepare for this, one of the early City Watch novels, and it is all about the insanity of, in Dungeons and Dragons, in fantasy, there are thieves' guilds. And Guards is just about Terry Pratchett going, how does that work? In what universe? But then he sits down, he comes up with a reason, and it's like, okay, well, it's this. This is why. This is the weird organized crime thing that means the thief guild can exist. And it's like he simultaneously takes his fantasy worlds more seriously than anyone else.
Right.
And in doing so, it becomes ridiculous.
Yeah, it's great.
It feels very English in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of it being English, on in the UK, like I growing up, I've seen like so many kind of like residually just seen like so many Terry Pratchett like properties like on TV, and it's kind of something that you just kind of you just take in without even realizing it.
Because he was so influential.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's interesting to like kind of see what I've kind of like picked up on without even knowing it, and then going into this and being like, it feels kind of like I'm at home in it weirdly. Yeah.
So my history with Discworld, I think, started with Mort, which is a lovely book about a boy who's on a farm, and like he has sort of like no prospects. He's not a memorable boy, and he goes to, I think the book starts with him going to some kind of job fair and being rejected as every possible trade, and then on the way home, Death shows up and it's like, "Do you want to work with me?" And he's like, So he becomes the apprentice of Death.
He's called
and has to
Makes
it's
sense.
called Mort, right? And so it's about him learning about like lovely world building about there's a room where every human's hourglass is in it, and you can see whose time is about to run out, and you go and talk to them. So he travels the world, and it's a lot of really nice conversations with people who die, and so much of the book is him being like, "Yep, I'm here. You've died," and people are like, "No, I can't be dead. I have a family. And it's like really bittersweet stuff of him being like, "Yeah, no, I know you used to have a family, but now you're gonna come with me." So that was that. I got hooked after that. It was lovely.
Amazing.
That kind of reminds me of the chat we had with the man who was killed today in the.
That's not a coincidence. That's that's how all those conversations go. People see Death and they're like, "No, I can't be now," and Death is like, "Yes, it is." But no, so that's where my love started, I think, and then just listening to the audiobooks and falling asleep to them over and over and over again, the world like embedded in my subconscious. I didn't remember Terry Pratchett being so focused on wordplay, but it is, and it's often characters misunderstanding words or misinterpreting words, or like one of the protagonists of Guards is someone who just thinks that being a police officer is about enforcing the law, and the whole of Guards is then all the other people in City Watch being like, "No, you can't enforce the law. That's ridiculous, because then we'd have to arrest politicians." And it's like, yeah, well, we should. It's like, no, we can't. But it is really fun to play an RPG system where, because if anyone at home has played an RPG, players will make puns or make jokes, and this is so like. It's just so elegant and clean to have an RPG system that says, make those jokes, and we're going to make them part of the game. Yeah. Which feels both really clean for an RPG and also so true to Terry Pratchett's style.
Freeing for me. Finally get to unleash the puns. Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the rules.
Oh, man. Definitely the pub. That was terrible. That was definitely one of the weirdest and wildest events that I think I've ever experienced in a tabletop game where, you know, as a player, you aim to go towards a destination, fail miserably, yet your team are still in there and scare the living daylights of its patrons, yet still come out with information.
Yeah.
It was the fact that Igorina, you got kicked out, and then you say, and then Igorina gets kicked out
Yeah.
10 seconds later.
Yeah, literally, and you're in the corner.
Oh, that was so good.
Just like,
Hey,
I'm not real.
yeah.
it's,
Act like I'm not here.
Oh, it was definitely that moment.
It's very
For sure, and I
silly.
think also your. I know I'm stealing all the moments, but it was the moment where you were like, "No!"
I was gonna say when you found out your bridge was in
Yes.
jeopardy.
Best line delivery of the whole.
Uh,
Yeah, it was
funny.
great.
it took all of my strength not to want to. The character is not enamored by dragons, but during all of those descriptions, was so enamored by these
Yeah, right.
dragons.
Yeah.
Like, they're
Adorable.
so cute.
Yeah.
And you just, and
Gotta
you
take
took
one.
Jeff.
I
Yeah.
know. So Jeff,
Jeff, I wanted to take them all home. They're
Honestly.
so cute.
Literally, like the epilogue scene, it was so hard for me to not be like, and then I go home and I've stolen all the dragons and they're with me.
Just great. It feels very true to like the kind of like the meme animals I send my friends, which are all like cursed like opossums and raccoons and stuff. Terry Pratchett so nails the like before his time or before it was relevant, like being like, yeah, no, we are going to have dragons in this world, and they're going to be the worst, smelliest, most dangerous, like
Brilliant.
sick
Pests,
creatures, yeah, that only like lunatics take care of. Because why would you?
Yeah. I also really enjoyed the whole like forgettable face.
Oh,
meme.
God.
Yeah, so
brilliant.
That's actually how
John
I
Johnson.
describe
You-
NPCs in my home game
Yeah,
anyway.
you do it. I'm pretty sure the last game we played together, you described yourself as forgettable.
That's true. That's because if you want to, when we were PCs together,
Yeah.
but like you can't have everyone be like a superstar. You need to have someone like normal as like,
The
what's
one they
the
don't
word?
write in the history books about, but made
I just mean
such
like
an impact.
what is it where you have like something that is next to other things so they can stand out. Like,
Juxtaposition.
yeah, it's a juxtaposition. Yeah, if I play a normal man, everyone else looks awesome.
Oh,
I can just
wow.
be like,
What a team
Sure.
player.
Shush.
For me, definitely was the idea of being able to use your traits to explain your actions that you're doing, and they can be quirky and weird and different, and that to me it's like your own little puzzle solving, and you have but you know the pieces, so you just have to figure it out as you go along. And I think that was really good fun, and I think I really did take enjoyment of the fact that, like, okay, cool, I know that the DM's always going to be rolling a d8, right? So I've got to try and get as high as I can.
Yeah.
So I've got to try and convince them as much as I can. And it's like, and that's a really lovely game in itself. It's just, and you don't, and that's the thing. It's like, I don't feel like I don't have to be quick, or I have to be, be intelligent in regards to like knowing all these different ins and outs. I just have to say it with confidence.
Yes.
And go with it, and I think like that was something that really stuck with me, with the rules and elements of this and that. And as soon as you get that, everything else then just kind of follows, I found.
Well, and I think that we're prone to do that in most systems. Like we'll try to argue
Exactly.
how this one stat actually works for this unrelated action. But oftentimes, like, you'll either get punished for it, or it's like you have this really fun idea,
Yeah.
and you want to implement it, but you're like trying to fandango your way that stat will work, and oftentimes can be met with like, oh no, like, I don't think so. But this just allows you to like say yes so much more often, and just like you can also give how effective, right? Like with the die, as opposed to just saying no.
Exactly.
It can be like, oh well, it's a D4. It's like, that's not as strong of an argument, but let's do it
But
anyway.
you can, you have a chance.
You still
know
get
what I
to
mean?
try.
And I think that's what's really cool about it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I like that the system itself, and I'm not sure if like this is going to expand to like the full version, but it's almost like a commentary on role-playing games itself.
Yeah, it does
because it's like they're trying to wangle stuff from the GM, and then also there's actively a consequences thing where it's like, I always like say like you have to have consequences for their players when they start goofing about, and this actively says like, yes, there will be consequences, and these are the major and minor ones, and blah blah blah.
The most most minor consequence did you see is called an inconsequential consequence?
Yeah. Very
love
good
it.
stuff. Very good stuff. And I also, because we were like, it was just a shorter session today, but I think there's also like, you can have new traits put upon you as well when you like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't do that
Yeah.
at all today because we were going
There
at
was
100
stuff
miles an
going on.
hour.
There was lots of stuff going on.
But yeah, I could slap you with additional traits that then you have to be like.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
Interesting. I've heard it said that the job of a GM is to always do your best to say yes, but like as in if players. But this is the first RPG I've played, which gives me the liberating thing of being like, yes, fuck it. Like if you pitch something insane enough, I'm like,
Sure.
yeah, fine.
I mean,
Which is what every player wants to hear
Yeah.
anyway.
The sprig of time was genius.
I had to look at Liv and be like, you got to give me more.
Like,
Like, you can't.
but it was just
What more can I
genius.
give you?
I mean, like the fact that your mind, and again, like this is the thing, because it's like your mind went from sausage
Yeah.
to time
Yeah.
to
Yeah, how-
saving
yeah.
like 9 dragons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was so surreal, but it just made so much sense.
Right?
Yeah.
It was meant to be. No,
Oh,
I was.
it was
Yeah,
genius.
well, because you were doing the right thing of just like looking at these random like traits that we've been given
Yeah.
and like how am I gonna make this work somehow. Watch me, and we
Oh,
did like
brilliant.
you did it
Literally.
expertly.
Brilliant.
The entire game, I was like, okay, how can I work it in? Maybe, and then I was like, oh, it's coming together. It's coming together. And I don't know if if you go back and watch the one shot again, you'll see that I was kind of going like that quite a lot because I was stitching the
Stitching.
time.
You're
Yeah.
setting
Yeah.
like, speaking of things that worked out, I
Yeah.
asked Modiphius to do this as a joke.
You've been really
Um,
selling this.
Yeah.
I
As a
thought this
joke?
will be hilarious because it's gonna be. We talked about this on the call, right? We were like, this is gonna be so awkward that the sheets will be like flapping down. They're gonna, and actually,
Yeah,
worked
out.
out.
it
Yeah.
works,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, copyright that.
You should-
Yeah.
yeah,
like this
Patent it.
is
Yeah.
Sell it on Etsy for
Yeah.
so much
Oh,
money.
yeah, for
you
real.
know these are the real carpet samples of Modiphius stuffs of sugar.
I honestly,
like-
I'm very impressed because again,
No, I
I can
liked
sit in
it,
a
yeah.
sofa that's about to envelop me and still
Yeah.
be able to.
Did we
role
accidentally
play.
invent something?
And
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Like this
Honestly.
is
Yeah,
this
right.
is really
Yeah.
good.
I haven't got a gaming table. This could be the closest thing to
Honestly.
it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I loved it. Good
very
job.
Wasn't the intention. The intention was to annoy you. And
No, and
Didn't
see
work.
how it
Yes.
balances on my knee.
It's well, there you go. Perfect.
The other thing about the character sheets is that, like, as you said, we came into this like fairly quickly. Some of us had more or less time to read the rules. But you read through the traits. There's only a few lines, right? Like your name, background. You have the niche, the core, and the quirks, and like 6 lines, and you like get who you. You have such a clear image because they're so distinctive. It's like, saying looks the spitting image of a pixie face smut. Too shy to move if they are being looked at. I was like, got it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love as a GM when NPCs are written that way of like
Yeah.
a single sentence and a quote. And it's like
You're like, yeah,
we're away.
Yeah.
nailed it.
Yeah, because Quinns, you were saying that like you thought we were gonna have to like sit together and kind of like go through like our character ideas and what we were gonna do, but we were like, nah, we're good.
You just sat down and like I did not know what to expect in that first scene where it's like, okay, you're outside the dragon sanctuary. I didn't even know what your voices were.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That is-
I didn't even know it either until it happened. It was great.
Yeah.